On PM Express, we're looking at the legacy challenge, probing Bawumia's claim of NDC zero legacy in the North. It's a conversation that has gained momentum throughout the week, and it all started when Vice President Dr. Bawumia challenged the opposition NDC and its flag bearer John Dramani Mahama to show a single policy they left behind in the Northern Belt before leaving office. And that has actually ignited a conversation with the NDC taking offense and also justifying what they say is legacy led by former President Mahama. Dr. Bawumia claims the former president had been in office as president for over 4 years, and before that he had the privilege of also becoming a vice president for a similar term, yet had nothing to show for it. That's a claim we'll be interrogating when the conversation takes full swing. He threw a challenge to the NDC to show one single social intervention program they brought, which reduced the hardship of Ghanaians. The NDC has been talking about a lot of interventions they say they brought in. We'll be interrogating that. He's citing free SHS, teacher training allowances, nursing training allowances as some of the interventions his government has brought to reduce the hardship of Ghanaians. Now, he talks about legacies, and he juxtaposes all the other governments that have passed through the system, and he started with Dr. Bawumia. He said Dr. Bawumia left a legacy of rural development policies. He also talks about ex-President Kufuor, who he says left a legacy of national health insurance scheme, school feeding program, LEAP programs, and metro mass transit. Then he jumps off to the current president, Nana Akufo-Addo, and he says he will be leaving free SHS, planting for food and jobs, one village, one dam, one district, one factory, the Kwalugu Dam, and all of them will be the legacy the president Akufo-Addo will be leaving. Don't forget that we've had a local rice glut recently, and you heard the NDC bashing the NPP that even the planting for food and jobs has failed because of the rice glut. We'll be interrogating all of that shortly. And the big question, what we will be doing fundamentally on PM Express tonight, is to probe Bawumia's claim of NDC zero legacy in the North. Stay with us. We're still live on PM Express. My name is Aisha Ibrahim, and thanks so much for choosing us. In the studio with me to do the discussion, you've been following, I'm sure, the discussion from the weekend when Dr. Bawumia was addressing one of the festivals in the North, and he made the comment. It's ignited a lot of debate over there. Felix Kwachu-Fosu is former Deputy Information Minister. He joins me in the studio to do this discussion. Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yes.
Good to see you. And we were expecting to have the NPP Communications Director, Yabwa being Asamoah, but for some reason and some miscommunication here and there, we are unable to have him. So we're going to be having Felix Ofosu-Kwakye on the show. Don't forget that you can get the opportunity to also send in your comments on WhatsApp, and the number is 0540109009, 0540109009. The number is on the screen. You get to send us a comment on WhatsApp, and we'll read it. If you have questions, you can also send them, and we'll get answers for you. But before we get into the conversation, I think we should listen to Dr. Bawumia this weekend when he was throwing that legacy challenge to former President Mahama.
We all know Nkrumah left a legacy in the North through his education and other policies. We all know Bawumia left a legacy through his rural development policies, and we can all speak to what Bawumia did. We all know President Kufuor left a legacy in Ghana: national health insurance, school feeding, the LEAP program, metro mass. All of these are legacies of President Kufuor. You know also Nana Akufo-Addo is leaving a legacy 3 SHS, planting for food and jobs, 1 village, 1 dam, 1 district, 1 factory, the Pualingo Dam, and all of that will be legacies of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So I want you all to ask the question. John Mahama, when he was president for 4 years and vice president another 4 years, can you tell me one legacy that he left in northern Ghana? Just one. Ask yourself those questions. What legacy did he leave for our people after being president for 4 years and vice president for 4 years? Or should I even say president for 4.5 years? What was the legacy? You come into office to work, to leave a legacy, to benefit the people. Is SADA the legacy that he left for the North? Is it the guinea fowls? Where is it? There was not one road completed in Upper West region. In 8 years, there was not one road completed in Upper East region. In 8 years. Only one road was completed in northern region, and we know where that road is. So what was the legacy that he left? So the competition next year is a simple question that we are going to be asking. If you are trying to build a house and 2 masons appear to offer their services to build a house, you will want to look into their record. How competent they are in building houses. If you look at one person and he tried to build a house and the house collapsed, will you hire that mason to build your house for you? No, you will not hire the mason who has built a house with weak foundations which has collapsed. You will look for a competent mason, the mason who can build a house, the mason who has already given you 3 SHS, planting for food and jobs, 1 district, 1 factory, 1 village, 1 dam, going to do the Pualingo Dam, going to do the iron and steel, all to bridge the gap between the North and the South. And that competent mason is none other than Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
You heard that Dr. Bawumia, Vice President of Ghana, making those claims this weekend. And Felix, how do you respond to this claim? He's actually made some comparison. He compared the NDC government to other governments, subsequent governments, and he says there's no legacy that the NDC left.
Well, I would respond to those presently. I will show that the Vice President clearly has no respect for facts or truth and candor. But I wish to make some preliminary comments. It is obvious, judging from the Vice President's conduct over the period that he has been in office, that he has not been able to transition from a running mate, playing second fiddle to the main candidate of the MPP, where he saw every opportunity to speak to the people as an opportunity to launch pot shots at President Mahama. That is allowed within the political framework. But it is expected that once you transition to become vice president, you are only a heartbeat away from the presidency. So your conduct and approach must be similar to that of a president. You must bring sobriety and reflection and depth to the office. It would appear, rather unfortunately, that our vice president believes in a jocular approach, an approach that seeks to usurp the function of ordinary serial callers and communicators.
How?
I mean, look, I have seen vice presidents. I saw Vice President Dakar. I saw Professor Mills when he was vice president. I saw President John Mahama when he was vice president. And then there is a late Pakwesi Emisa, a consummate gentleman. I also saw the late Alhaji Aliu Mahama. All of them brought dignity and some reverence to the office of the vice president. They did not turn every single function, every formal or official function that they went to into a rally and launch completely baseless attacks on political opponents.
But he just
by every stretch, I will come to that.
What makes him a joker?
You see, there's no shortage of facts to completely blow the vice president's false claims out of water. There's no shortage of that. I'll come to that presently.
Okay.
But I am making a preliminary comment that the office of the vice president comes with some requirements. One of them is sobriety, dignity, reflection, not jocular politics. This vice president has taken too much delight in pedestrian propaganda. He goes on to make claims without regard for the facts. Perhaps he is buoyed on by a certain misleading narrative woven by some sections of the media and some supporters of his, that he's perhaps the greatest thing that happened to the vice presidency of Ghana. You see, to measure somebody's performance, you need to use specific metrics. Okay? You don't simply say that because somebody mounts a platform and grins from year to year and makes claims that are false, only because he's provided sound bites, he is the greatest thing to have happened to the vice presidency. I have told you the list of people who have occupied that office. If you look at their performance, fortunately, even though the Constitution does not give the vice president a specific role, by convention, vice presidents, at least since 1996, have been made the head of the economic management team. So it provides a very objective platform to assess their performance. If you look at it, if you were to use that criteria, Dr. Bawumia cannot hold himself out as the best thing to have happened to the vice presidency. Let's look at some critical economic indicators which fall directly under the purview of the vice president as head of the economic management team. The most important of them is the growth rate. Okay, so President Mahama was vice president between 2009 and 2012 when the late President Mills died. In 2009, the economy of Ghana grew by 4.8%. In 2010, we grew by 7.9%. In 2011, we grew by 14.4%. And then in 2012, we grew by 9.3%. If you do an average, it comes to 9.6%. Dr. Bawumia, since he's been vice president, in 2017, the economy grew by 28.1% as head of the economic management team. In 2018, it dropped to 6.3%. This year, it is 6.5%. Next year, it is projected to be around 5.4%. If you do an average calculation, it comes to around 7.6%. On that alone, there's no basis for the claim that he is the best thing to have happened to the vice president. Now, let me move on to the specific claims that he makes. You see, it is not excusable for a vice president to set out to tell outrageous falsehoods. There are instances where you can slip a bit, you can make a minor error, perhaps based on lack of a specific set of facts. But in instances where there is a glaring, there is glaring evidence,
which is
contrary to the facts that the vice president puts out, he cannot be excused. The claim that President Mahama does not have a legacy in the northern part of this country is a ridiculous lie. And I regret to have to be that blunt. It is a ridiculous lie. It is a lie that you expect an uninformed NPP rabid serial killer to put out. Not a vice president who has a gamut of aides and special assistants who can fetch him information at the click of a button. Okay. He completely refused to carry out any research. Or if he had that information, he chose rather to be dishonest and put out information that is false. Look, the reality is that there is not a single government under this Fourth Republic that has done more, that has put more money in investments in the people than President Mahama's government. I'm
interested in one of the issues that he mentioned, and he stated categorically the SADA project and the Guinea Fowl project.
You see again,
and it's one of the projects that many have described as, if you like, a mockery of the NDC government.
Well, the only
SADA paid 32.
Aisha, we are familiar with the issues of SADA.
Okay.
You see, the only mockery. You see, the only mockery here has been what the vice president has done to himself. He has made mockery of himself. You see, SADA was well intentioned.
Are you exonerating the NDC
let me make my
SADA
point. If you let me make my point. You see, SADA was an intervention aimed at improving living conditions in the northern part of this country, the Savannah Belt, the then Upper East, Upper West, Northern region, and the upper part or northern part of the Volta and Bunafo regions. 200 million Ghana cedis. In today's terms, it would be $40 million was put into that. However, it is regrettable that some incidents occurred which did not allow for the objective of SADA to be achieved. But for a vice president to create the impression that the only initiative or the only steps that the NDC government took to develop the northern part of this country was SADA.
But SADA
it's a display. It's a display. Listen, it is a display of. It is a display.
It was a
yes, but I've made a point. Just a point. You see, for the vice president to see that SADA is the only metric by which you measure the performance of the NDC in that part of the country, it's a display of ignorance at the highest levels of government.
Which other projects?
Sector by sector, in the whole of this country, there is no government that has done more than the government headed by President Mahama. And I'll proceed to give you specific examples.
Okay,
no,
so
he claims,
we're talking about 50 million.
But Aisha, we are familiar. Aisha, we are familiar with what happened in SADA. Okay. There's no point regurgitating it. Okay. We also do know. We also do know that President Mahama. Listen, we also do know that President Mahama took concrete action. No, the President Mahama took concrete action. Monies were refunded, and this is public knowledge. But I'm telling you that anybody who tells you that the only way that you measure the NDC's performance in the northern part of this country is through SADA, is displaying high levels of ignorance.
You say monies were refunded. First of all, did we get the rest of the trees that we're looking for? The rest of the guinea fowls?
Monies were refunded. The leadership of SADA was dismissed, replaced by a new one, and payments were stopped. But let me come back to the issue. Let us take the Upper West region, for instance. The most significant intervention in the Upper West region in terms of healthcare was undertaken by President John Dramani Mahama. That is a 160-bed Upper West Regional Hospital in Wa. President Akufo-Addo does not have a chicken coop in Wa to show for all the monies that he has had. Okay. In the same Upper West region, the Wa airstrip, it used to be a tiny airstrip. Only a few weeks ago, President Akufo-Addo was beating his chest that he had managed to organize flights to the Wa airport. That airport was upgraded, rehabilitated to acceptable standards by President Mahama. The Upper West Regional Library is one of the biggest and most modern in the country. The Wa Town Urban Water Project, which President Akufo-Addo sought to appropriate last year, but was exposed for, was carried out by President Mahama. Again, there are a total of 64 CHIPS compounds undertaken by President Mahama. I dare Vice President Bawumia to for once put on the cap of seriousness and point us to CHIPS compounds that his government has undertaken in the Upper West region that match up to what President Mahama did. Again, you recall that under the Community Day senior high schools, and we are talking senior high schools, not classroom blocks.
Okay, how many did you build?
We put one at Golu, we put one at Funsi, we put one at Briefo.
How many did you
Lambusi, Logu, Dorimon, Zini, Naro, Dorimbo, Konzak. Forgive me if I mispronounce the names.
How many did you promise and how many were you able to deliver?
Well, I can count here almost 8 of them. Let Dr. Bawumia show me even the foundation of any senior high school that his government has initiated.
But he's made the point
in addition to this,
his government will leave a legacy of free SHS.
I beg your pardon. You see, the notion that our entire life as a people revolves around the payment of fees for $1.2 million is a complete misunderstanding of what development is about.
But that's a legacy.
Yes, but it is also a legacy that President Mahama undertook 8 community day senior high schools in the Upper West region. With a greater respect to you, those children who go to senior high schools in the Upper West region, Dr. Bawumia does not expect that they will go and sit under trees to receive that free senior high school education that he's talking about.
But those are
the man,
people who sit under trees.
Yes, that is because President Mahama put in the infrastructure. It is something Dr. Bawumia's government does not have the capacity to do. In the health sector again, 5 polyclinics were put up at Wenchao, Babile, Ko, Lambusi, and Han. Dr. Bawumia should show us the foundation of any polyclinic that he and President Akufo-Addo have put up in the Upper West region. Again, as many as 641 communities were connected to the national electricity grid under President Mahama. Dr. Bawumia should show us. Indeed, let me tell you something. The NDC moved electricity coverage from 54% in 2009 to 84% in 2016. That is a 30% increase, I beg your pardon. Dr. Bawumia's government has increased electricity coverage by only 1.5%.
But they've stabilized the
They didn't stabilize anything. They have not added a single megawatt of power.
They say they've resolved
Aisha, electricity is not generated from your kitchen or my bedroom.
Okay.
It is generated from power generation units. President Mahama, between 2015 and the time he left office, added 2,000 megawatts of additional generation capacity. Dr. Bawumia should tell us whether his government has added a single megawatt of power.
But it's a fact that the country was in darkness.
That may be true, but as far back as Christmas 2015, doing so became a thing of the past. Dr. Bawumia and President Akufo-Addo have done absolutely 0% work when it comes to ramping up generation capacity. Only yesterday, there were nationwide blackouts, were there not? Even when they have been handed over this large generation capacity, in addition to what we have.
But that's nothing compared to doing so during the NDC
if President Mahama had not worked so hard to put in the solution to do so, you and I will be languishing in it. As has been proven, they don't have the capacity to add even a megawatt
even when they reviewed the Ameri deal, which the NDC went into and put the country into.
The Ameri innovation deal.
And saved the country some money.
The Ameri innovation deal is by far the single biggest corruption scandal involving a president directly in the history of Ghana. President Akufo-Addo signed executive approval for a deal that was inflated up to $800 million.
Which is?
When he was found out, he claimed that he was misled. But it is instructive that the man who wants to leave us a legacy is misled to commit this country to $800 million.
The fact that the Minister of Energy saved some money after reviewing the Ameri deal.
The point is that they had wanted to swindle us by $800 million and they were caught flat-footed.
But the country was saved some money.
That is not the conduct of a president who claims he's leaving.
But the money was saved some money. But the country was saved some money from the deal that the NDC entered into.
But for the vigilance of you in the media, the minority and civil society organizations, they were going to swindle us by $800 million. The other legacy they have in the energy sector is the PDI's theft, the PDS theft, where a deal was cooked for cronies of the president to benefit.
But they've terminated the contract.
Well, it is instructive that it has been terminated, and yet those who engage in the fraud are working free. So when they speak about legacy, there's none. But let me move on quickly and speak about other legacies that President Mahama has in the northern part of this country. And I challenge Vice President Bawumia to dispute any of these facts. When he goes to the northern region, he speaks about roads. And let me put it on record that the Fofoso Solar Road, I have used that road. It is the best road in the northern part of this country.
He says you've completed only one road in the northern region.
That is
in Upper East, zero.
That is a blatant falsehood, an absolute lie cooked from the depths of hell by the Vice President. The Fofoso Solar Road, I'm telling you, is the best road in the northern part of this country. In addition to the road, there are over 40 community development projects involving schools, hospitals, emergency and accident centers and markets and other projects. The NPP cannot boast of any road that they have constructed in the last 3 years in any part of this country. In addition to this, the Tamale to Techiman asphaltic pavement road was done. Tamale Township asphaltic overlay was done. Asphaltic overlay of roads at Kamina Barracks, Bawa Barracks, Tamale Airport Residential Area were all done. The Wulensi Pandai Road was done. The Nyankpala Tonon Tali Road was done. The Tamale South Township roads were done. Now, the international airport at Tamale is the direct handiwork of President Mahama. It is the direct handiwork of President Mahama. What legacy does President Akufo-Addo have in the aviation sector?
The NPP is dedicating 9.3 billion cedis in the 2020 budget for roads, and you say that's not significant?
You see, Aisha, you see, they say that when a naked man promises you clothes, you need to check whether he's wearing clothes. It is not the first time that President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia have promised us roads. You recall the noise and hoopla made about some money from China. In 2018, they claimed that $640 million had been approved by the Chinese authorities under the Sino-Hydro deal. If you check the budget statement of 2019, presented by Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta in November 2018, he listed over 100 roads that they claimed were going to be constructed with a Chinese facility. In the 2020 budget, he could not account for even one that had been done. I'm telling you today, if you put your trust in President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia that they will construct the roads they say they will construct, you will laugh on the wrong side of the mouth. They have no track record. They have no track record in any proper road construction beyond empty talk and agreements that exist on paper. They have nothing to show on the ground when it comes to roads. So I'm surprised that he is even able to stand where he stood and make the allegation that he made. Again, when you go to the Savannah region, that is where the Fofoso Solar Road is. I've told you about schools, markets, and clinics. There's a senior high school established in Sola. There's a market complex at Sola. There's a community day school at Daboya. Let Dr. Bawumia show me the foundation of any secondary school that he and President Akufo-Addo have constructed in that part of that country. And then come to speak to us about legacy. Again, if you go to the same region, there's a West Gonja Hospital. There's a Kumfusi Polyclinic. There's a dam constructed at Kalba. There's a Sola Senior High School and a health insurance facility at Sola. There's also the Sola Polyclinic. Again, I challenge Dr. Bawumia to tell us a single project that he has done there that rivals this one. You see, let me come to some of the other claims that he made. He claims that they are going to leave a legacy. And the legacy he speaks about are one village, one dam,
free senior high school, planting for food,
you see, again,
and jobs.
Again, you see, let us subject
one district, one factory,
no
one
problem.
village, one dam.
So in 2016, they made these promises. Let's take one village, one dam. They promised that they were going to construct a dam in every village of the northern, upper east, and upper west regions. What it means is that when you count the number of villages in those parts of the country, you expect to see a corresponding number of dams. In the upper east region alone, where there are 15 districts, there are an average of 150 villages in each district. If you do the math, that is about 1,250 villages. So we expect in the upper east region alone, 1,250 dams. In 2018, at a similar festival in the northern region, Dr. Bawumia claimed that by the end of 2018, they would have constructed 560 dams, 570 dams in that year alone. But overall, we were looking forward to over 5,000 dams because that is the number of villages in those parts. In the 2020 budget, the finance minister says they built 200 dams, which falls far short of what was expected. Even those dams are in fact ponds and do not come anywhere near the dams that they promised. Let's talk about one village, one district, one factory.
The first factory is ready.
I beg your pardon. At the time they were making the promise, there were 216 districts. Even if we were to overlook the fact that subsequently the number has increased to 254 and hold them to just 216 districts, they have not fulfilled that promise. Look, when we challenged them on the viability of that project, they actually displayed a map and billboards were put at places like Okponglo to show the whole country that factories were going to be sited in specific districts. They had a map that detailed the specific district, the specific raw material available, the specific factory, and the number of people going to be employed.
But free SHS is running.
Aisha,
Planting for food and jobs is running.
Aisha,
just recently, we've had a bumper harvest in rice because of planting for food and jobs.
Let's finish with the one district, one factory. To assess whether they have fulfilled that promise, you need to take that map and check whether any of those districts have received factories. We expect 216 factories in the same form that they promised. What they have done is to go around and attach one district, one factory logos and insignia to existing factories and purport that those are the factories they promised. When we were in power, we gave companies, manufacturing companies, 5 of them, about 50 million Ghana cedis to expand their factories. But we never said anywhere that we had built those factories. If you go to the Free Zones Enclave, between 2013 and 2016, over 60 world-class factories were put up there. One of them was at Eshiam in the Western region. There's a company called Wankan. They built a tile factory that produced about 40,000 square meters of tiles a day for export and domestic sales. Now, that factory cost $60 million to build. Some of the biggest names in international production, manufacturing, Barry Callebaut, Avinash, and co. set up in the Free Zones Enclave. Yet, we did not go about beating our chest. Look, if you put the amount of money invested together, it ran into about $1 billion. 16,000 people gained employment through that initiative. Yet, we didn't go jump on the rooftop and claim we were building factories. They came reciting slogans, and yet when you ask them about the factories, they are unable to show you. Now, let's move to 1 million per constituency. You recall, the same Dr. Bawumia, and I told you about his penchant for jocular politics. He went to stand in Cape Coast and told the people of Cape Coast that if they don't come to Accra to police the $1 million, people in Accra will squander the money. The impression one got from the promise they made, and indeed he's also on video to have said at a rally somewhere in the northern region that the $1 million per constituency in terms of disbursement will start from the very first year, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. In all, we expect that if you put the entire amount together, a total of $1.1 billion, or roughly about 6 billion Ghana cedis, or let's say 5.6, 5.7 billion Ghana cedis would have been disbursed. The information minister, Kojo Oponkroma, has told us that for the first 2 years, nothing went. And that they are looking forward to send something in 2019 and 2020. That is a violation of the promise that they made. You understand the point I'm making? So Dr. Bawumia cannot stand on that platform and claim it is a legacy. In any event, let me tell you something. If you put together all the work that the so-called Special Initiative Ministry has done, it is roughly equivalent to the work that President Mahama did, using only the Community Water and Sanitation Division. The boreholes that you speak about, there are thousands of them that the Community Water and Sanitation Division did. So President Mahama didn't create a ministry.
The NPP says you left them debt. That was the legacy you left for them. I'll come back to that. Let me take a few of your comments on WhatsApp. And this one is coming from Bole. It says, Felix should stop beating about the bush and mention one legacy or policy JM left. It was this same infrastructure they were boasting of when MPP came with free SHS, 1D1F, and defeated them massively. Okay, so that's coming from Achemu from Bole. This one from Otanku in Kwando. It says, Dr. Bawumia should stop the noise and work. How on earth will a vice president be attacking opposition? Maybe he wants to go to opposition. He should give us a break. Ghanaians are watching. Those are some of the comments. Let's take this one from who. He said, good evening to you. This, our current vice president, is more of a comedian rather than a vice president, because being on the throne, I don't expect him to be speaking as if he is on a campaign platform. It's coming from Timothy. And this one is from Swala from Tamale. He says, all the 3 northern regions will not forgive NDC till you bring back our guinea fowls. This one from Kwame Danso. He says, His Excellency Bawumia should know that he's no more an MPP running mate but a vice president and should accord the office with some dignity. Construction of regional hospital in Wa, among others. President Mahama can be remembered for that. Construction of community day schools in the 5 northern regions, just to mention a few. Those are some comments. The number of comments, our WhatsApp platform is buzzing with messages. Good evening, Aisha. It's true our vice president normally behaved like that. He needs to respect his office and stop the propaganda anytime he had the opportunity. And it's coming from Patrick Akoto there. This from... who? You didn't add your name. It says, Mr. Kwache, allow Aisha to throw her important questions at you and answer them well accordingly and stop beating about the bush. The country's economic woes today is a result of bad governance by NDC. Never again will Ghanaians vote incompetent NDC to power. There are a number of your messages coming in. I'll take a short break on PM Express. When we come back from the break, we'll be looking at social interventions, because one of the things Dr. Bawumia mentioned is the fact that the NDC is quick to jump at the NPP and say that they've not introduced social interventions and Ghanaians are suffering. And he asked them to show one intervention that reduced the hardships of Ghanaians. When we come back, we'll be interrogating that. And also make that comparison that Dr. Bawumia made. He started from Buzia, he came to ex-President Kufuor, and he came to Akufo-Addo, and then jumped on to President Mahama. All of them, when you mention their name, there should be something that rings a bell in your ear. What single thing comes to mind when former President Mahama's name is mentioned? We'll interrogate that after this break.
We all know Nkrumah left a legacy in the north through his education and other policies. We all know Buzia left a legacy through his rural development policies. And we can all speak to what Buzia did. We all know President Kufuor left a legacy in Ghana. National health insurance, school feeding, the LEAD program, Metro Mass, all of these are legacies of President Kufuor. You know also Nana Akufo-Addo is leaving a legacy. 3 SHS, planting for food and jobs, 1 village, 1 dam, 1 district, 1 factory, the Poaligo Dam, and all of that will be legacies of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So I want you all to ask the question, John Mahama, when he was president for 4 years, and vice president another 4 years. Can you tell me one legacy that he left in northern Ghana? Just one. Ask yourself those questions.
We're live on PM Express, and we're talking about the legacy challenge, which was thrown this weekend by the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, and he said, you left debt. That's the legacy the NDC left for the NPP.
You see, there's nowhere.
But even before we get to the legacy, the debt, I want us to look at the social intervention issues.
First of all, let me take on the debt. I'll come to the social intervention because you mentioned it before we went on a break. You see, there's nowhere that Dr. Bawumia has been so badly exposed as completely flat-footed and talkative than the issue of debt. Look, when they were in power, he mounted several podiums and claimed that they were going to borrow less and do more. At the time, he used to claim that the total amount of money, including taxes and other revenue, that the NDC got for the 8 years was 248 billion Ghana cedis. Since President Akufo-Addo has been in power, they have received 200 billion Ghana cedis in 3 years. And yet, there's absolutely nothing significant to show. Now, when you come to the specific issue of debt, the NDC left a debt, total public debt, from 1957 to 2016 of 120 billion Ghana cedis. Only yesterday, or the day before, the governor of the Bank of Ghana disclosed that our public debt in that short 3-year period that President Akufo-Addo has been in power, with Dr. Bawumia as head of the economic management team, has shot up to 208.6 billion Ghana cedis, an increase of almost 90 billion Ghana cedis. Now, ask Dr. Bawumia to tell you what he did or they have done with the money. I will tell you what President Mahama did with the money that he borrowed. And mind you, the 120 billion was not all borrowed by President Mahama. It is the entire public debt since 1957 up until 2016. President Mahama moved water access from 52% in 2009 to 76% in 2016. In absolute terms, he provided water for an additional 7 million Ghanaians. He moved electricity coverage from 54% in 2009 to 84% in 2016. President Mahama started work on 123 community-day senior high schools. President Mahama built a quaternary hospital at the University of Ghana. He built the Ridge Hospital, or the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. He built the Upper West Regional Hospital. He expanded the Upper East Regional Hospital. He built district hospitals at Dodowa and started work at on district hospitals in Kumewu, at Fomena, at Nsoko, at Tepa, and other places. I want you to ask President Akufo-Addo to account to you a single major capital investment that he has made. All the money he's collected has gone into consumption-related expenditure. Mind you, Dr. Bawumia, in opposition, was condemning consumption and insisting that all monies borrowed should be put into capital investments. Yet, in power, he has borrowed so much and has the least to show of all the presidents who have governed this country. So, President Mahama stands head and shoulders above President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia's boss, when it comes to making capital investment. Now, let me address the issue of social intervention. You see, please disabuse your mind of that narrow, pedestrian definition of a social intervention.
How?
It is not only when you call something free that you refer to it as a social intervention. Essentially, every investment in the social sector, including education, health, poverty alleviation, and what have you, is classified as a social intervention.
But when he mentioned, he did that comparison, he mentioned former President Kufuor, and of course, you can't talk about national health insurance, for instance, without talking about ex-President Kufuor.
But of course,
let's look at how the NDC managed the national insurance scheme.
Great. First of all, what President Kufuor left was a district insurance scheme. It was the NDC that nationalized it. At the time we came into power, active membership was around 8 million. By the time we left, it had gone up to almost 12 million. One of the critical ways that you examine the health of the insurance scheme is what we call utilization, the number of times that people visit hospitals. By the time we were leaving office, the national health insurance card had been used over 30 million times in 2016 alone.
But it's still fresh in our minds how service providers were crying to be paid by the National Health Insurance Authority.
Owed several months arrears under President Akufo-Addo.
Misappropriation at that authority.
Well, the only misappropriation that we have learned of is that the National Health Insurance Authority actually wanted to finance the education of the Minister for Procurement, an expenditure that is completely outside of the mandate and remit of the National Health Insurance Scheme. But more importantly, as I speak to you, there are service providers that are still chasing government for payment. Government owes them several months arrears. You recall that about 3 or 4...
Somewhere, the ones that you left.
I beg your pardon. About 3 or 4 months ago, you recall that the Cape Coast Regional Hospital came out to say that they were owed so much in terms of claims payments that they were unable to function. Hospitals like the Accra Psychiatric Hospital have come out to say that they receive very little support from government. Why? This is a government that cannot even operationalize hospitals that have been completed and handed over to it. So this talk about investment in the health sector is completely bogus. President Akufo-Addo's achievements in health pale into insignificance when you set it against what President Mahama did. And there's not a single social intervention where President Akufo-Addo has performed better than President Mahama.
You promised to do the one premium. You weren't able to do it.
Well, of course. We explained that when we did actuarial studies, we found that doing the one-time premium was going to be inimical to the health of the National Health Insurance Scheme. So it was better to expand it. And the evidence on the books shows that we expanded it more than any other. In any event, how is the National Health Insurance Scheme funded? It is through VAT receipts. The very thing that President Akufo-Addo led a demonstration against in 1995. He said he hated VAT. So President Akufo-Addo, he hates pork, but he eats pork soup. He doesn't like VAT and taxation. And yet, when he comes to power, he collects taxes to fund health insurance. In any event, talking about taxes, is it not the same Dr. Bawumia who claimed that President Mahama had reduced governance to tax?
I mean, you didn't explain why you didn't do the one-time.
I've told you what happened. We had to do analysis, and it showed that we were better off expanding a scheme than implementing one of claims payment. In any event, talking about broken promises, have you read the MPP manifesto? There are as many as 281 promises. At the beginning of this year, Dr. Bawumia came out and President Akufo-Addo came out to say that they had fulfilled 41 promises. If you do the analysis, that amounts to 14% fulfillment. Now, any government that achieves 14% fulfillment is abysmal. Look, only today, it has been published that a research conducted by the CDD on behalf of Afrobarometer has shown that as many as 59% of Ghanaians think that the nation is moving in the wrong direction. That is a fall of 15% from 2017. The same Afrobarometer showed that the topmost priority of Ghanaians today is infrastructure and roads. That vindicates President Mahama's investments in infrastructure and road projects that President Akufo-Addo cannot even begin to dream of. Look, since he's been president, every significant thing that has happened in the road sector is a legacy of President Mahama. Let me give you the facts. You know the Pokwase interchange. In November of 2016, President Mahama found $84 million for that project. It was supposed to start in the first quarter of 2017. President Akufo-Addo refused to start it until sometime last year. Recently, he went to cut sword for the Obeche-Wilante Circle. That money too was found $39.2 million. It was found by President Mahama. The Tema motorway interchange. That too is a result of a $56 million grant that President Mahama negotiated with the Japanese government. There's not a single major road project that President Akufo-Addo can put his name to. And yet his vice president is able to stand on the platform and claim that the man who built the Fufusu Solar Road, who did the Gifford Road, who did the Burma Camp Bypass, Phase 1, Phase 2, the Awoshi-Pokwase Road, and all the road projects dotted around this country has no legacy. Why? Recently, people have been crying about roads. You know why? In 2015, President Mahama committed 3 billion Ghana cedis from Cocoa Board to the construction of what we call cocoa roads. One of them was the Jasikan Dudu Road. That road project was awarded on contract in December of 2015. The contractor moved to site and started. When President Akufo-Addo came, he asked that all road projects under construction under the cocoa road projects should cease. He then committed $10 million into a wasteful audit that did not detect a single act of wrongdoing. That is 55 million Ghana cedis, which can actually do some feeder roads. After that, he refused to allow contractors to work. So for 3 years, the roads that were being constructed deteriorated. And then he turns around to go and cut sword on the same road and says that he's doing something.
Did you follow the recent campaign by the Volta region, for instance, the Fix the Volta Roads campaign?
But of course.
Why did you turn a blind eye
to the issues in the
We did
not turn a blind eye. We did the Pepeso to Nkwanta Road. I have told you right now that President Akufo-Addo stopped the road projects that were ongoing. Indeed, only yesterday I was in Ho. I used the highway in Ho. I saw asphalted roads in Ho done by President Mahama. There was supposed to be a dualization of the road in Ho, which started under President Mahama. It is one of the roads that President Akufo-Addo stopped. So if anybody is to be blamed for the poor state of roads in this country, it is President Akufo-Addo. It is not for any reason that Ghanaians now think that infrastructure and roads are the most critical needs that they have. It is born out of...
Isn't it why they are putting in so much money?
But after that, they have not put in a cent. Aisha, they have not put in a cent.
But the 2020 budget has...
The 2019 budget was clear that they will do over 100 roads. They didn't do a single of those. Why do you have any confidence in them that they will do any road? Look, they speak about Sino-Hydro. In 2018, they took some agreement to Parliament to approve about $641 million under the Sino-Hydro deal. They told us that work was going to start that very year, and that they had listed 100 roads that would be constructed using that Sino-Hydro money. About 2 weeks ago, they told us that Sino-Hydro had approved monies to be used to construct roads. They are unable to tell us how much has been approved or whether or not we will get all the 600 million. Even if they got it, Aisha, it will be a drop in the ocean compared to what we need to actually fix the roads. It will pale into it will be a joke compared to what President Mahama did in terms of roads across the length and breadth of this country. So please don't be lulled into any sense of complacency because Dr. Bawumia and Kenuforiata and President Akufo-Addo are saying they will construct. They have said they will construct roads since 2017. There's not a single kilometer of road of any major significance that they can credit themselves with.
Let me take a few more of your messages, and this is from Landy from Akachi. He says, as a politician, I believe your work should speak for you. And when you have power, but when you are campaigning, you can throw jabs at each other. Bawumia is still in the campaign mood. He should give us a break. Ghanaians know better. We don't need him to tell us which government does better or is doing better. And it's from Landy. And this one, Papa Ayensu says, surprisingly, Ofusukwachi is telling us how much the NDC added to other presidents' existing legacies, which he can't claim total ownership of free SHS, planting for food, 1D, 1F, were all not existing before Akufo-Addo took over. What happened to SADA? If the Green Book is their legacy, then he is right because it contains ghost projects.
Aisha, let me respond to that. See, that is also a claim
to them.
That is a claim that the president and vice president have made. It is a lie from the pits of hell. Look, I challenge anybody, the president, the vice president, his information minister, or anybody in government, to take an hour of this your show. Bring the Green Book, I will bring the Green Book. Let them point me to a single project in the Green Book that does not exist. You see, they have been so embarrassed by their falsehoods that when it was time to go and commission Terminal 3, they could not go. Why? Aisha, the KJTR Central Market, whose artist impression we put in the Green Book, does not exist on the ground today. So where from this falsehood by senior government officials and MPP propagandists that the Green Book had anything that did not exist? I am challenging them again. Aisha, if you like, take my word for it. Take me up on this challenge. Call any MPP communicator or minister who can man up and say that he can show anywhere in the Green Book that we put any project that does not exist on the ground to come on this show. I will come so that he points it out.
Let me take this one from Alhaji Hamza from Pig Farm. He says, this government will only be remembered of high corruption in this country. Corruption is fighting this government and not this government fighting corruption. And no wonder this country had become a laughing stock in the eyes of the international community when it comes to corruption. Indeed, talk is cheap. Now, let me get to my final question, because that comparison made over there is very, very significant.
I've told you that first of all, look, the least performing president in our history is President Akufo-Addo, by far.
Well, okay, the comparison is that Dr. Bawumia left a rural development policy.
What is the rural development policy?
President Akufo,
before you go on,
President
Akufo, for instance, unpack for me what the rural development policy is. Tell me.
Well, Bawumia will do a good job in doing that, but
so you don't know what it is. And yet we should accept it. But
Kufuor, anytime you mention ex-President Kufuor, at least NHIS comes to
And when you mention President Mahama, you don't know about the community-based schools. You don't know about the community-based schools.
You talk about that.
Aisha, now you don't know about President Mahama's investments in the community-based schools.
Akufo-Addo will be leaving free SHS. No two ways about that. Free SHS, planting for food and jobs.
Again,
when we mention,
you see, first of all,
former President Mahama, there should be something
there's
to
so
click.
Much.
I want just
there is
one
a community-day school
one
project.
thing that should click.
Listen,
when you mentioned
I have sat here and listed for you over 50 different interventions.
There must be just one.
But I've given you 50. You're talking about one.
That clicks anytime that name is mentioned.
Listen, I have given you 50. And you're asking for one. The community day schools come to mind readily. That intervention allows 200,000 additional school children to have places to sit, not to sit under trees. Again, let me dismiss this falsehood about planting for foods and jobs. You see, if planting for food and jobs was such an efficient policy to reflect in the growth that we see in the agri sector.
Haven't we seen growth?
No, in 2016, the pass-through effect of the policies we implemented resulted in a growth in the agri sector of 6.1%. In 2018, when the MPP's planting for food and jobs was supposed to be at full throttle, the agri sector grew by 4.8%. In 2019, it has grown by 2.2%. So wherein lies the impact of this planting for food? You see, what they engage in is a lot of sloganeering. Let me tell you, what they call planting for foods and jobs is only a rebranding of an NDC initiative called MAPLE, which was supposed to be funded with 125 million Canadian dollars.
But nobody knows about. Nobody talks about MEPO when former President Mohammed's name is mentioned.
Listen to me. I am telling you, you are a journalist. You have capacity to examine my claims. So I'm telling you that you don't have to receive MPP propaganda hook, line, and sinker. It is your duty to carry out research and tell people the difference between fact and fiction. I have given you facts, figures that show that our agri sector is declining by the day. And yet the government claims that they've made such progress in agriculture with planting for food and jobs. If you make progress, it will be felt. You understand the point I'm making? They speak about rice production. It's not the first time that rice production has gone up. We improved rice production from 301 metric tons in 2009 to over 600 metric tons in 2014. So we have always had that increase.
If former President Mohammed's name is mentioned, we should talk about what?
Community day schools. We can talk about water. We can talk about roads. We can talk about aviation, communication, energy, health.
Grateful that
what does President Akufo-Addo have to show?
Felix Kwachiofoso is former information minister, and we've been talking about the legacy challenge thrown this weekend by the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia. We haven't seen the last of this. I'm sure as the days goes by, we'll still be talking about and also hearing more details from the NPP on this particular matter. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.